Good morning, everybody. Today is September 20th, and you're listening to Texans Against Foreign Intervention. I'm Dane Bennett coming at you from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and this is the news. So the first story we have today is by Kyle Anslone at the Libertarian Institute, titled "Trump is Preparing a $6 Billion Arms Package for Israel." So let's get into it. The White House informed Congress that it is preparing a massive arms sale to Israel, including attack helicopters and military vehicles. The weapons will be paid for with U.S. military aid. According to the Wall Street Journal, the total value of the weapons deal is $6 billion. The sale is $3.8 billion for Apache helicopters and $1.9 billion for 3,250 infantry assault vehicles. Washington will pay for the arms with foreign military financing. The U.S. provides Israel with at least $3.8 billion in military aid annually. Washington boosted assistance to Tel Aviv following the October 7th Hamas attack. In the first year of the Israeli onslaught on Gaza, the U.S. sent Israel nearly $18 billion in aid. The weapons will begin arriving in Israel in 2 to 3 years. So this is how far out they're planning right now, guys. They're planning 2 to 3 years out to still need to provide all this aid to Israel, which really begs the question. There's been all this rhetoric about, Trump wanting Netanyahu to wrap up the operation in Gaza as quickly as possible, and it all sounds good when we're hearing him say it on the White House lawn, but at the end of the day, we're planning on continuing to help them bolster their military 2 to 3 years out. So is that for this conflict? Is this for an additional conflict with somewhere like Iran that they don't want us to know about yet? It's important to remember when you're voting that every time politicians vote yes for all of these spending increases, they'll always justify it by saying, we have all this domestic stuff to worry about, we've got Social Security to pay into, we've got infrastructure to repair and maintain. They always act like this additional spending that really does come out of all of our pockets is going to be to our benefit, but there's always a new deal with a capital B billion being sent Israel's way, so that's just something to keep in mind. Moving on, the report of the package follows Israel's attempt to assassinate Hamas leader in Qatar. The strikes angered Doha, a major non-NATO U.S. ally. Qatar is also committed to investing $1 trillion in U.S. economy and gifted Trump a luxury aircraft. Additionally, the assassination attempt prevented Trump from initiating talks to end the war in Gaza and free Israeli hostages. The strike occurred as the Hamas leadership was meeting to discuss a proposal sent by Trump. Qatar said the attempted assassination ended any chances of reaching a hostage agreement. So again, it seems like we've got Trump doing his best to try to cool tensions and try to find these resolutions and get this thing ended. And in the midst of negotiations, Israel makes a decision that they know is going to really just, no pun intended, blow up the whole situation. So, again, if our interests align with Israel so much, it's interesting to me that it seems like every action they take cancels out or overturns something that we're trying to do on our end. The White House has pushed congressional leadership to endorse the sale even after the Israeli strike in Qatar. Israel is in the process of ethnically cleansing Palestinians from Gaza. The onslaught has been primarily conducted by Israel using American weapons. A large number of civilians have been killed by Israeli forces. Additionally, an Israeli siege of Gaza has created a famine, and hundreds of Palestinians have starved to death. Since taking office, Trump has approved multiple arms sales to Israel, including a sale of $3 billion in bombs. So this really is, to a large extent, on our hands. I guess a fairer way to put it would be it's on our politicians' hands, because if you look at the polling, since Trump has gotten into office, it's just been absolutely plummeting how many Americans are in support of Israel. Even older Republicans, who are usually the most staunch Israel supporters, the numbers are wavering. And even younger Republicans, who would normally have numbers supporting Israel much higher than that of younger Democrats, those numbers have been plummeting as well. It's the lowest support Israel's ever had in the United States. So somehow, though, regardless of that, regardless of the vast majority of Americans not wanting to have this blood on their hands, seems like every politician outside of Thomas Massie is still voting yes on every single one of these packages. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about and dealing with your representation, that These people are well aware of how the vast majority of us feel about financially supporting what Israel's doing to Gaza, and they continue to make these decisions anyway. So just remember that whoever it is they're working for, at least when it comes to Israel, it's not me or you. And a friendly reminder before we move over to the next story, this story was written by Kyle Anslone at the Libertarian Institute. He has his own podcast called Conflicts of Interest. He's one of the most important young voices in the anti-war movement today, and he's definitely worth giving a follow on X or giving his show a listen. Next up, this one is from antiwar.com, also written by Kyle Anslone. The title is Israel Strikes Hit Hospitals in Gaza City, Killing 19. Tel Aviv continues to bombard Gaza City with massive airstrikes. Multiple Israeli bombs targeted medical facilities in Gaza City, killing at least 19 people. The IDF recently ramped up its operations in Gaza City. On Thursday, Israeli strikes hit near the Al-Shifa hospital, killing 15 people, and the Al-Ali hospital, killing 4 others. The Gaza Health Ministry reported at least 83 Palestinians were killed over the past 24 hours across the Strip. So I don't know if you guys remember early on in the war when hospitals were being struck, people were getting really upset about it. It was constantly on the news, and people were really treating it as if it was a moral failing by Israel. And unfortunately, I think to a certain extent we've been blunted to it, because now when it happens, I don't even feel like it makes mainstream news. It kind of just gets buried under all the domestic headlines. It's not as huge of a scandal because it's almost been normalized. It's been happening for so long now. But I just want to really put a fine point on this, that bombing hospitals in a war is not normal behavior. It's not behavior that's supposed to be allowed by international law, and it seems like it's happening in front of our eyes very consistently, and we're treating it like just because Israel's been doing it for quite a while now, that makes it okay, but it's certainly not okay. And this is just another example of something that Israel's doing, using weapons they get from us, using money and support that they get from us. And no matter how much any of our leadership here in the States likes to say that they don't support this behavior, they support it with their wallets, or I guess I should say they support it with our wallets and their votes. So I just try to keep in mind that no matter what they say about it, if what they say doesn't line up with their vote, it's just nothing but rhetoric to try to make us feel better about it. So last month, Tel Aviv ordered all 1 million Palestinians sheltering in the city to relocate to the Mawasi camp. While Israel lists Mawasi as a safe zone, it has repeatedly bombed the tent city. And this isn't the only example of them doing something like this. There's been a lot of stories. Tucker Carlson had a guest recently who spoke about how they were firing machine guns at Palestinians who were leaving the aid sites. So they would bring Palestinians into aid sites to get food, and then when they were leaving on the way out, they would fire machine guns at them. And the IDF has claimed publicly that they're actually just shooting the guns to try and scare them away and get them to move faster, as if it's some type of a crowd control technique. But everyone who's served that I've ever spoken to has told me that that's something that you would absolutely never do. You would never fire live ammunition in the general direction of a civilian population to try to get them to run away. That's not standard practice at all. So they like to talk about a lot of things that are happening in Gaza as if they're normal wartime behaviors, but they're really not. There are still hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza City. Many say they are unable to leave because they cannot afford the cost of relocation. Around 800,000 Palestinians remain in the city. Israeli battle plans for Gaza City call for leveling the infrastructure with the most intense bombing campaign ever seen in the Strip. Tel Aviv has deployed a mix of bombs, drones, and car bombs to level residential buildings, medical facilities, and shelters for displaced Palestinians. So again, just to not gloss over that, they're using bombs, drones, and even car bombs to blow up shelters. This isn't even permanent infrastructure. This isn't even permanent infrastructure that we're talking about here, like buildings. Not that that's okay, but we're literally even talking about like temporary pop-up shelters that people are just trying to survive in being bombed. And that's not even something that they can try to act like, some rogue unit did. This is part of their official battle plans that they've stated publicly in Israel. Medical staff are refusing to abandon the remaining medical facilities in Gaza City. Several patients in the hospitals are in critical condition and will not survive the transfer to another facility. On X, Defense Minister Israel Katz celebrated the slaughter. Gaza is burning, he wrote. We will not relent and we will not go back until the completion of the mission. So these are the things that they say on X. These are the things that they say in their public statements to the Israeli population, it's just interesting when you pay attention to it. The way that Israeli officials speak to their domestic population and in their own language is very different than the things that they say when they're clearly trying to talk to Americans and Europeans in English. They're really trying to sell a different bill of goods than they are to their domestic population. So it's always interesting when we get a translation of something that was written in an Israeli newspaper or on X in Hebrew, as opposed to the rhetoric that they push when they're speaking English clearly to us and to the Europeans. Israel has targeted medical facilities across Gaza. Many hospitals are damaged and barely able to provide care for injured and sick patients. UN experts have labeled the Israeli onslaught in Gaza as a medicide or the deliberate destruction of the healthcare system. So again, that one's from antiwar.com, again written by Kyle Anslone. Antiwar.com it's a fantastic resource. They're doing probably the best work in the American anti-war movement today. I've been reading them for years, and if you ever want to go over there and contribute, or even sign up for their email list just so you can get kept up with the most important news, they're a huge resource for me. I couldn't do this show without them. All right, so last one for today, once again from antiwar.com, written by Kyle Anslone. You guys are going to get tired of hearing his name, but I'm sorry, he just writes a lot of the best stories, so we're going to pull a lot of his writing for these episodes. This one is titled, Discussions Before Iran War Indicate Nuclear Weapons Issue Was Less Pressing Than Netanyahu Claimed, which, to let my own opinion be known a little bit here, it feels like for the last 20 years, we've been being told that Iran is 45 minutes away from finishing a nuclear weapon. And, lucky for us, I guess, that day never seems to come. Somehow we always find the facility right in the nick of time. Somehow whatever bombing campaign or whatever attack we need to support, it always goes well. It always goes perfectly. We always get the man we're supposed to get. We always get the site we're supposed to get. And they're never able to complete that weapon. But this has just been... They would have you believe that they're on the doorstep, knocking at the door of having a nuke for at least 2 decades now. I'm 26, and to put it in perspective, for my entire life, even before I personally was paying attention to politics, we've been hearing that they're this close to a nuclear weapon. So while this story is important, it's not at all surprising to me. Israel and the U.S. asserted that the war against Iran was necessary because Iran was days away from developing nuclear weapons. So there it is, days away. How would you even quantify that? It almost seems ridiculous on its face. It would be one thing for them to say they're 80% of the way there, or it would be one thing to say within a few weeks or even a month or something like that. But the idea that we would know that they were days away. So did we know when they were a month away and we didn't take it that seriously, and then we waited for them to be, 5 days? Like, next Tuesday they're going to have it. We should probably do something now. It's almost laughable the way that it was presented to us days away. Seems ridiculous to me. Private discussions between Israeli officials before launching the war against Iran in June indicate that Tehran's development of nuclear weapons was not an immediate concern. At the time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran's nuclear program was an immediate threat. So once again, we know how badly old Bibi Netanyahu wants to go to war with Iran, and by how badly he wants to go to war with Iran, I mean how badly he wants us to go to war with Iran. He doesn't really want to fight them himself, but he sure would love if we did. So it seems like constantly he's coming up with reasons. He's just our helpful friend, letting us know how dangerous they're getting, and he's just always letting us know these reasons that we really got to get over there and do a bombing campaign. It's very convenient how Israel and the United States always seem to have the same enemies, even when they only pose a direct threat to Israel, and we can't really quantify in any serious or legitimate way what threat they pose to the United States. But we can always count on Benjamin Netanyahu to let us know who our enemies are, and they just always happen to be his enemies as well. So that's very fortuitous, I guess, that it always works out that way. We are at a historic moment with a crucial decision. If we don't stop them, within a few years, they will get tens of thousands of kilograms of nuclear explosives, the Prime Minister said at a top-secret meeting the day before launching the war. Iran has already enriched fissile material at a level that is enough for 8 to 9 bombs, and they are working on weaponization. According to the Times of Israel, one unnamed senior military official said the attack would prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon in, quote, the long term, and the war would, quote, improve Israel's strategic balance. So, again, not shocking at all. It seems like whenever Israel needs to get a leg up against Iran, suddenly Iran poses a threat to the United States, and we need to go do something about it. Again, it's just very convenient timing, but we sure can trust Netanyahu. He definitely has America's best interests at heart. Publicly, Netanyahu gave far more alarming warnings about Tehran's breakout time to build a nuclear weapon. He said, Iran's nuclear teams were racing to build nuclear warheads. The Israeli intelligence agency Mossad claimed Iran could assemble a nuclear weapon within 15 days. So once again, he's having conversations with his own military officials talking about, the long term, and we're going to improve Israel's strategic balance against Iran, far down the line. So it's a very long-term plan. It doesn't sound at all like they're panicking that they're going to have one in 2 weeks. But then publicly, he's giving the rest of us a whole different message, including the leadership in the United States. He's telling us, you got 2 weeks or else they're going to have that nuke, and who knows what those crazy guys will do. It's a completely different message that he's sending to us, which we're then basing our own military operations around. So it's, with any other country, I think if we found out that France had told us that we really needed to take a particular step against, Somalia or Yemen, because they had this intelligence that we didn't have yet about a very serious danger, and we took that action, and we found out afterwards that privately in their own government, they actually knew the information was completely different, and it was nowhere near the threat that they had told us it was. We would consider that like a betrayal by an ally. We'd probably be pretty upset about it. It would probably strain tensions with France or any other country that would do something like that to us. But, when it comes to Israel, they tell us something, we act on it, and if we find out that it was completely untrue or greatly exaggerated later on, it's like we just pretend it didn't even happen. We don't want to look back at that. We don't want to strain relations. So just something to keep in mind there. And it's something to keep in mind, honestly, next time your senator, your governor, or any of your representatives want to tell you about how we have to do this because Israel told us that. It's just, it's something to remember that Israel has a long and storied history, especially Netanyahu himself, of telling us whatever they think is going to get us to act in a way that's best for them. And that's really not even just my opinion. We're looking at it in black and white right here. That's just what they do on a regular basis. Private discussions also reveal that Israeli officials believed that they would not be able to destroy Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium and were depending on Trump entering the conflict. The basic assumption is that at the end of the operation, Iran will still possess enriched material, one official said. Tel Aviv needed the U.S. to destroy the Fordo nuclear facility. One official admitted, Fordo will be destroyed only if the U.S. attacks it. So, that's about as clear an admission as they could possibly have. They wanted this facility gone. They knew they couldn't do it themselves, so they ramped up the pressure to us, and, they told us that we had 15 days before they had a nuke, and we need to go do it right now, and, they said jump, and we said how high. We went and did it. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer was confident that Trump would decide to bomb Fordo and provide Israel with assistance in shooting down Iranian missiles. The conversations additionally reveal that Tel Aviv was trying to overthrow the Iranian government, not just to destroy the nuclear and ballistic missile programs. So again, this has been a goal of Netanyahu's for a very long time. Iran poses the biggest threat to Israel of any of their neighbors. They're the most organized, militarized nation in the region, other than Israel, of course. So they really would like to destabilize Iran as much as possible. And again, really what that means is that they'd like Iran destabilized and they'd like us to do it. So when they can tell us something that's going to encourage us to take action against Iran, they're always going to spin that yarn. So that's going to be the news for today. Thank you guys for joining me again. And as usual, we always cover some really heavy topics. There's a lot of very hard, very upsetting things going on in the world. So everybody out there listening, make sure you take care of yourself. take a couple of minutes to listen to something with some levity after this. I usually start my own day reading a lot of this type of news, and then once I'm done recording, I'll put on something with a little bit of levity, maybe like Theo Von's podcast or something like that, where I can laugh and not think too hard about all the things going on in the world. So that's going to be the reporting for today. I'll be back again with the news tomorrow. And until next time, God bless America. Peace.